Hi, I'm Darren, and I will be going over chapters 11, 12, and 13. In chapters 11, we looked at PR in the workplace, and some of the things we learned were what societal factors have caused internal communications to become more important today than in the past. We learned that a more massive competition can influence that. The intrusion of computer and internet to put pressure on productivity, downsizing and layoffs, long-distance customers. What is the general mood of the public today? We learned that it is more often than not brittle. People today in the workplace are unwilling to trust management to act on its behalf. Chapter 11 also discussed key elements to effective employee relations, willingness to express dissent, visibility and proximity of upper management, priority in internal and external communication, attention to clarity, friendly tone, having a sense of humor goes a long way. We also learned that print communications is teetering in the workplace, mostly is being replaced by online newsletters and things of the nature. Some key takeaways for Chapter 11, that companies that communicate make more money. In the workplace today, most people feel expendable. Internal communications comes down to one word, and that's credibility. And last but not least, we learned what shock was. And that's strategic, honest, open, and consistent communication to rebuild and retain trust among employees. Chapter 12, we discuss government relations and pretty much government. Here are some takeaways. For starters, PR was banned by the government in 1913 because it tempted government officials to use privileges granted and attention paid to them by American people for the advancement of their own agendas or promotion of themselves. It also taught us that politics is dominated today on social media, and that Barack Obama was actually the first presidential candidate to use social media as their main communication focal point. Instead of PR professionals, the government calls them different names. Public affairs expert, information officers, press secretaries, and communication specialists. We learned that USIA is the United States Information Agency, and it is their job to explain and support American foreign policy, promote U.S. national interests. The press secretary to the president is probably the most visible PR position in the world. It is the second most difficult position in the administration. The role of the press secretary is to communicate the policies and practices of the president to the public. So you can imagine how difficult that can be. We also learned what lobbyists do, and that they have a job to inform and persuade. Many lobbyists take part in the following activities: fact-finding, interpretation of government actions, interpretation of company actions, advocacy of a position, publicity springboard, and support of company sales. And finally, we went to Chapter 13, which discussed relationships in a community. And we went over multicultural diversity, and the book told us by 2010, 48 million Hispanics made up 16% of the U.S. population, 14 million Asians made up 5%. We learned that multiracial Americans are the fastest growing demographic right now. Whites are getting older, minorities are getting younger, and minority buying power has also increased with its growth. We learned that corporations have social responsibility to its communities by giving back. Most companies today do donate a percentage of their profits to nonprofit organizations. Since the recession, companies are increasingly starting to give back again. I also believe that this can be correlated with millennial buying power and how we're starting to influence and change the market and kind of change the agenda there. We also learned that the expectations of community relations, and that is determining what the community knows and thinks about the organization, informing the community of the organization's point of view, negotiating or mediating between the organization, the community, and its constituents, should there be any significant discrepancies. And I think anything like that, you would probably see great examples would be nuclear power plants in your the small town, or pollution issue. It would be PR to kind of address those issues to the town. What are the organization's expectations of the community? Well, for starters, it's municipal services, fair taxation, good living condition for its employees, having a good labor supply, and support for business and its products. The community's expectations for an organization is Well, for starters, we have a tangible and an intangible. For tangible, they expect wages, taxes, and employment. Intangible expectations are appearance, participation, stability, and having pride. And last but not least, we learned that community relations objectives is to tell the community about the operations of the firm, to correct any misunderstandings, reply to criticism, and remove any dissatisfaction amongst community neighbors, to gain to gain the favorable opinion of the community during strikes and periods of labor unrest by stating the company's position on the issues involved. You can see a lot of these on Twitter today, blogs, Facebook. So not these won't always be over the news or directly to the people. A lot of companies, word of mouth is out there on social media to inform, also to inform employees and their families about company activities and developments. To me, I think this is more common among companies Ethernet and amongst themselves, kind of an internal PR. And their last is to inform people in local government about the firm's contribution to the community welfare and to obtain support for legislation. I hope you enjoyed my brief synopsis. Thank you.